What is real consciousness? Some are calling it connecting consciousness. Today I'm going to answer some questions, and I've got a tremendous response to the statement that I made in another YouTube video. It said, did I have much to say in what my books reveal? Because, of course, a 10-year prison sentence is how they shut me up, but now I'm free and I reveal this. Well, that statement right there is going to tell us a little bit about consciousness and what consciousness really is. Good morning, everyone. James Nussbaumer, and welcome to my webinar on everyday miracles. And it's just a wonderful morning where I'm at right now here in Ohio, and I'm going to be sipping on my latte here while we go along. With this webinar, I'm going to try to get it in with under 40 minutes, but there will be no responses, no other people being able to ask questions during this seminar. And the reason for that, this webinar, I want to say, seminar webinar, the reason for that is because I don't want the questions to turn into some kind of analyzing and dissecting. I rather want my words to just flow across your mind, not your brain, the essence of who you are. My message today, I want to flow across you. So as I'm speaking with you, let it flow across you. And when you replay this video, which I encourage you to do, this webinar, please do the same thing. Let it flow over you. Do not dissect it or try to analyze it. There's a lot of talk going on in the world in the last few years about that 17th letter in the alphabet. Many of you know what I'm talking about. And a lot of people think that this has something to do with an individual, a certain individual. No, let's say that means quantum consciousness. Now, let me explain what I'm saying. Now, keep in mind, I'm doing the technical work on my own as we go along. So for those of you that know my story, know that I'd spent 8 years in prison over what was supposed to be called a securities violation, which was foolish in all means of it, and is where my books were born, my ever developing series that continues today. And I'll talk more about that as we go on. But now let's talk a little bit about quantum consciousness. Let's look at that 17th letter in the alphabet as meaning quantum consciousness. Now, let me explain further by saying there is not a single doubt in my mind that it was divinely intended that my life's journey for whatever was going on with me would be greeted by this quantum consciousness in a certain way that I just cannot explain in detail. But it all started by a publication that opened my mind called A Course in Miracles. But there was also some other spiritual curriculums as well along the way. Now, believe me, I've been a follower of the Bible all my life. I went to 17 years of Catholic education, and there was a lot of trying to understand the Bible going on there. So I am in no way trying to replace the Bible. In fact, in my books, I encourage people not to think that way when they're reading my books. When I quote from A Course in Miracles, its psychological content helps us more understand the old stories that were written, helps me understand the old stories that were written in the Bible in a different way, because let's face it, we were all taught how to believe. We were all taught how to understand a verse in the Bible. We were all taught how to understand a section of the Gita, or whatever spiritual curriculum it is. So let me just say that these inner teachings of quantum consciousness to me are of inner peace that have answered my lifelong questions to the mystery of all that exists, while proving to me the truth about forgiveness. Now, I mean real forgiveness, and listen to me carefully, but don't dissect what I'm saying. Again, let it flow across you. A Course in Miracles asks us to hear this single question. Question: who is the light of the real world except God's Son? Surely we might say that this is a question for us to absorb and want to dissect and analyze this to death. But again, let's don't do that. But more so, it's merely a statement of the truth about ourselves, our real selves, not the body, our real selves. For we are the light of the world. You, with a capital Y, you are the light of the world. And the light emanates from your source, which is the creator of all that is real. Again, quantum consciousness. There's the leader of that 17th letter in the alphabet, your source, which is the creator of all that is real. That is quantum consciousness. This is the opposite of a statement of pride or arrogance or self-deception, we may say. It simply states the truth about who you are. I was in prison at the time that I wrote these books right here, and I'll show you. Here's the first one real quick, The Master of Everything. It's a story of mankind in the world of illusion we call life. This is the pilot of my series. There's book 2 called Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom. And book 3, which is very dear to me, called And Then I Knew My Abundance. And book 4, recently released, called Living Your Dream and Not Someone Else's. Now, these are the first 4 books of an ever-developing series, and book 5 is on the way. And my job, as long as I am in this world, of writing these books and putting them out, will never end. I was in prison and I was writing these words by hand into composition journals, the old-fashioned kind, with the black and white mottled cover and the lined pages. I look back when I was first shoved very hard and abruptly into a 6 by 9 foot cell when I first went into the doors of prison, clothed in rags, which would be called an orange jumpsuit that so many people before me had worn. As I stumbled to the floor, the overbearing guard growled, "Welcome to the state." Well, I sat there on the floor in the corner of that cell, pretty much the same individual as I am today. Excuse me again, folks. However, today I see the truth has moved to the front of my mind. What I mean is I believe this change was both drastic and subtle, and it had much to do with my survival, since I'd been stripped of my world, or we could say my dignity, perhaps. Dignity seems like something that we need in order to survive in this world as who we think we are. Well, at least we were taught this along the way. So as I was writing these words in these books and more books that are still in journals that haven't been typed yet, I've only been home from prison for 5 years now. So I've got a lot more books to get published with the same mainstream publisher who saw Ozark Mountain Publishing Company who saw it their way to get involved with my work. But as I continue to write, and as I was writing these words in the books that I've just showed you, I have nothing in this world other than who I am. I often wonder, does that mean I do have my dignity after all? Excuse me, I get the sniffles just a little bit, and these words kind of choke me up a little bit too, so please bear with me. But I describe in my book series, the ever-developing book series, some of my experiences of prison life, but many of them I'll never mention to anyone, only because they really don't matter in the scheme of all things where consciousness is concerned. I describe what I have experienced as an undoing of old patterns of thinking, which has been a transformation initiated and then guided by a part of me that eternally lives. Remember what I'd said a little bit ago? The source that emanates the light, the source of the light of our creator. Well, the process necessarily required this stripping away in order to bring on new patterns for me, which are truly of who I am. Again, not my body, who I really am. I began an inward journey that tells me it will continue because it's taking me where I must go, and I feel I'm there now. It's truly, it is truly a journey about not only who I am, but also what I am. Now, I can tell you in a tremendously peaceful, blissful, and exciting way that this is 100% true. And I can tell you the same process is available to you when you open your mind and don't analyze and dissect things to death, regardless of your circumstances of what's going on. For me in the situation, I was sentenced to prison for 10 years. I remember sitting there in that stinking cell when I was first entered the door, moving quickly to the depths of my mind without realizing how deep I was going. The experience was definitely more than just what I had been cautioned it might be. Many would say that I was in shock. In fact, I heard one guard telling another guard that I must be in shock when I wouldn't answer any of their questions, because they all knew that I was in prison for the first time in my life ever. Something was directing me to go deep. Something was directing me to go deeper and deeper, where a feeling or a sensation welcomed me lovingly. I almost felt like a child again. It was a feeling of being cradled and told that everything would be okay. I also know that I had no choice but to accept that embrace. I realized in the weeks and months ahead, inside of these block walls and steel bars, concrete floors, uh, that, that there was something inside me. I was realizing my true strength. It was if I were being waved on inside of me to join in, but I still had to go deeper where something was waiting to greet me. I was standing at the edge of a cliff, so to speak, and I had to just let go. The sensation was it was very mysterious to say the least, and but also encouraging, as though whatever was waiting had been hidden away for all those years of my life. Once again, don't try to dissect anything. Don't try to analyze what might have been happening all those years of my life. Let what I'm saying flow across your mind, the essence of who you are. So back to what I'm saying. Physically, I was very weak. And this inner place, I could say, that had been obscured, we can say, like covering up the light in me, like cloud cover for so long, was really my long lost home. Much of the world, and I'm sure you agree, lives by a thought system that teaches us that our body should be regarded as our temple. How many times have we heard that? Quite often. Well, this is true, but however, it applies only to the surface of who we express ourselves to be. Skin and bones, that's all it applies to. Where gaining and winning are important, we kind of always are so put too much emphasis on. But for the most part, honoring the body, which we also need to do while in this world, is only a minor step in answering that one question so much of the world struggles with, and that is, who really am I? Excuse me again. But our temple, so to speak, that I just mentioned, is not a structure at all, such as a building or our body. Every temple has its altar where holiness abides, correct? Well, otherwise, it wouldn't be a temple, it wouldn't be a church. But rather than viewing our body as the temple, let's consider the structure of our temple as our true essence, as the source of our creator, or being, our natural divine being that emanates the light of our creator, quantum, and that light being quantum consciousness. We are a part of that light. Deep within that structure of life, that's real life. Deep within the structure of real life, quantum consciousness is where our altar sits. And it's at this altar where we see our life's purpose and the passion to lead us towards what we want to do while we're in this world. This is what emanates the light, or is the true essence of who we are. This is our being, if you will. This is our part in the whole, WHOLE, quantum consciousness. I wrote these books entirely from longhand, from behind bars in an overcrowded, overbearing, obnoxiously overloud prison environment where inmates live in one another's faces, excuse me again, all day and all night long. The atmosphere is violent and volatile, truly, truly. Often, I believe this is what brought these words from my mind through pen and onto the paper. I would sit there and wait to be released by a judge who says he used me as an example when he had sentenced me. The waiting, I can tell you, was extremely difficult. To speed up a little bit for those of you that don't know my story, after years of pleas being denied and even a clemency request being denied by then Governor John Kasich, who could have easily let me go after 8 years, but I was denied. The waiting was extremely difficult, but I knew it was temporary. But I ended up serving a little bit over the 8 years and was finally released by a higher court that knew I had no reason to be in prison any longer. Perhaps ever should have went to prison. This project, these books that I had just shown you, and more on the way, have saved me in more ways than one. And I grew and continue to grow as my writing does. I wrote this book series solely by myself with helpful suggestions from a oneness, a quantum consciousness, we can say, of which we all are a part of. The oneness, that quantum consciousness, the oneness I call God. You can use whatever word you want if God is not the way you like to express your creator, but that's fine. I use it because it's comfortable for me and much of the world does, but whatever word you want to use is fine. Again, writing these books has helped me keep busy each day while I was in prison. And at times I would lose sleep at night, anxiously waiting to pick up where I left off the day before, and it had consumed me. I had to write by hand because there was no computer resources in prison. Each day I'd received as a gift of words that I could not seem to find the previous day. I would often wake up in the middle of the night and think, that's it. Excited, a sentence that was needed to complete a paragraph or a metaphor to help explain an idea. There was something to assist me in an area I seemed to be stuck in the day before would just appear in my mind. Well, when the final chapter was nearing its completion, super blissful feeling continued to flow through me, and I knew I was going to miss this project. I was sad too, because I could not get the first book I'm talking about, the final chapter of the first book. I was sad when it came to I couldn't write any further. I thought I had it 100% the way it's supposed to be in journals, waiting for a publisher to come forward. And again, I was sad and kind of lonely about this too, because I could not get it to mature beyond the handwritten stage due to the rule that I'd said no computer usage in prison. And my only other resource was not really a resource at all, but it was available if I wished to stand in line to use the ancient, poor quality prison typewriter. But need I say, I would never have achieved the goals that I did if I would have used that old quality typewriter. And this was a feeling of not being able to, because it was not up to publisher standards. And that was such a distressing feeling. It was the feeling like not being able to send your cherished kid off to college, the child who desperately desired to change the world with his ideas, but you couldn't afford to get him there or her there. But regardless, my words did mature into book form. I've showed you that before in the beginning of this video. But they were at first handwritten and into a growing pile of journals. And this at that time would be fine for the time being for me while in prison, because a voice kept telling me, help is on its way in due time. The voice inside me continued to assure me that things are happening right now, that don't worry, keep writing. As the journals sat in the bottom of my footlocker, that same voice encouraged me to keep reading, keep studying, keep writing. This book series is truly children to me. And in many ways, in many respects, it has been like watching my daughters grow to adulthood. I remember asking my daughters when they were little girls in a joking and an affectionate manner, say like on their birthdays when they were little, I asked them to promise me not to grow any older, because I would say that I wish them that they could just stay cute little girls and not grow older, stay that way forever. And I would laugh as I was saying this, but inevitably they did grow up, and today they are beautiful women doing what they must do to make the world a better place. Just like my little girls, my book series is ready for its next phase. Sooner or later, and that phase has already happened. And it's continuing to be more phases and more phases. There's always a next phase. Sooner or later, the words of my future books will be in your hands. And if you don't have my books already, please get them in your hands, and hopefully helping those who are lost or confused in their own way, as I once was. Or perhaps those who are searching, but just not certain what it is they actually want to discover. They will find their true free will, as I have. By the way, I'll have links down below in the description area here at YouTube to my safe and secure website, where you can access my books easily online at whatever your favorite outlet is. And my books are on sale everywhere books are sold. You can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, whatever outlet you choose. If you go into a britter and mortar store and they don't have my books on the shelf, then just go to the desk and ask them, and they'll be able to get it for you. But I hope that you'll take a part in this journey, and please support my work. But of course, by the time you are reading my books and my future books, I will be where I'm staying now. I'm wondering, I will be traveling all over the world, and I'm wondering how I will continue to get the volume of books that I have published in if I have enough time left in my life here in this world. But I'm not worried about that. It's in the hands of my creator, quantum consciousness, that I'm a part of. And I have a wonderful publisher right now that sees it their part to continue with me, Ozark Mountain Publishing Company. Other individuals who I have not even met yet will have to arrive onto the scene to help move the process along. And other people are already coming onto the scene. I see this as a natural progression, just as the many other adults who arrived to play a role in the maturing of my daughters. Again, quantum consciousness. I can honestly and openly tell you that I have been advised by the one who knows that I should relax while I proceed with the suggested writing and promotion of my future books and the books that are already published. I've been advised also to trust that the right people will show up at the right times to assist me with this heroic mission, I want to say, we could say, or the other various procedures that need to be yet met. Events are being arranged at this very time while I continue with my work. By the way, in the description area down below, I've also have a link to my GoFundMe page, which explains so much more about where I'm going with my project. I'm trying to get the capital started for some healing centers to start taking form. And you'll find, I'll have the link to that page. I use GoFundMe. Why? Because it's for real. And for anybody that wants to contribute, it's easy for tax deductions and so forth. Everything's documented. In fact, events are being arranged right now that I'd said that will give you a reason to seek out my books or come across it or have it given to you as a gift. I have already been instructed to turn everything over to my teacher with a capital T. And my guide, my teacher and guide is one. And what is that? Quantum consciousness. That is the 17th letter of the alphabet. Quantum consciousness. It's the light that emanates from our creator. He guarantees this project that I'm working on will arrive in a time that is right for the world at the time. And all I need to do is to calmly listen, see, and learn, and keep spreading my words, my messages. By the time you are maybe listening to this video, I may have already popped up in your area, traveling at a little book signing somewhere around the country or somewhere else around the world. But it's important that I talk to individuals everywhere about what I have learned and witnessed along my own spiritual journey of consciousness. For those of you who are already ready, and for those who can glimpse readiness, if you can remember that forgiveness is the key to unlocking the door to your own inner depths, then you will live a life that encompasses your own true free will. Yes, your own true free will. And when you know that you're living aligned to your true free will, you will know this to be your real home. Hope this makes sense, everyone. And I also hope you're thinking a lot about your own life and all the natural beauty that is within you. The natural beauty that is within you is the light that emanates from your source, from your creator. And that is quantum consciousness. Until next time, God bless.